Have you ever realized you loved someone only after they were gone? Not because they died, not because they disappeared, but because you were too busy to notice what was right in front of you. This is the story of Ethan, a man who believed there would always be another tomorrow, another phone call, another dinner, another chance to say, "I love you." He was wrong, and one rainy evening, everything changed forever. Chapter 1. The Girl Who Was Always There. When Ethan first met Lily, he was 24 years old. He had just started working as an architect in Boston. He was ambitious, hardworking, and completely focused on one thing: success. Every morning he arrived at the office before everyone else. Every night he was the last person to leave. His coworkers admired him. His boss trusted him. His clients loved him. But there was one person who quietly waited for him every single day: Lily. They met in a small coffee shop 2 blocks away from his office. She worked there while finishing university. The first time Ethan saw her, she accidentally spilled coffee on his white shirt. She looked terrified. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." Ethan looked down at his shirt. Then he laughed. "It's okay." She smiled. That smile stayed in his mind for the rest of the day. The next morning, he came back. Not because he wanted coffee, because he hoped she was working. She was. From that day on, he ordered the exact same drink every morning: a large cappuccino, extra hot, no sugar. After 2 weeks, Lily already knew his order before he even spoke. "Large cappuccino?" Ethan smiled. "You remembered." She laughed. "You come here every single day." Slowly, their conversations became longer. At first, only 30 seconds, then 1 minute, then 5. Soon, Ethan found himself arriving early just to talk to her. She told him about her dream. "I want to become a children's book illustrator." He looked surprised. "You draw?" She nodded. "Every day." She opened her sketchbook. Inside were beautiful drawings: tiny foxes, old trees, children holding balloons, small villages covered in snow. Every page looked magical. Ethan stared quietly. "You're really talented." She smiled shyly. "No one has ever said that." He meant every word. A few months later, they started dating. Life felt simple. On Fridays, they watched old movies. On Sundays, they walked along the Charles River. Sometimes they bought cheap ice cream and sat on a bench for hours. Lily talked about books. Ethan talked about buildings. Neither of them cared that their interests were different. They simply enjoyed listening to each other. For the first time in years, Ethan felt peaceful. 2 years later, he proposed, not in a fancy restaurant, not during a vacation, just in the same coffee shop where they first met. He held a tiny ring. His hands were shaking. "Lily." She immediately started crying. "You haven't even asked yet." He laughed. "Will you marry me?" She nodded before he finished the sentence. "Yes." Everyone inside the cafe clapped. It felt like the beginning of a perfect life. And maybe it really was, for a while. After they got married, they rented a small apartment. Nothing inside was expensive. The sofa was secondhand. The dining table had scratches. The kitchen was tiny. But Lily loved it. She filled the apartment with plants, paintings, candles, books. She believed every house could become a home. Ethan agreed. At least, back then. As the years passed, his career grew faster than he ever imagined. He received promotions, new clients, bigger projects, higher salary. He told himself he was working hard. For both of them. For our future. Whenever Lily asked, "Can we have dinner together tonight?" he answered, I have one more meeting. When she asked, "Can we take a weekend trip?" he replied, "After this project." When she asked, "Can we watch a movie?" he smiled without looking away from his laptop. Maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow. It became his favorite word. Tomorrow I'll have more time. Tomorrow things will be easier. Tomorrow I'll make it up to her. Lily never complained. Not really. Instead, she left little notes around the apartment. "Don't forget breakfast. Good luck today. I'm proud of you." Sometimes Ethan noticed them. Sometimes he didn't. One evening, he came home after midnight. The apartment was dark, except for one small lamp near the window. On the table, dinner was waiting, cold, covered with foil. Beside it, a handwritten note. "I know you're tired. Heat the food. Sleep well. Love you." He smiled. He whispered, "I love you too." But Lily was already asleep. The next morning, she had already left for work before he woke up. Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. Without either of them realizing it, they had stopped talking. Not fighting, not arguing, simply talking. One rainy Saturday, Lily stood beside the window. "Ethan? Do you ever miss us?" He looked up from his phone. "What do you mean?" She looked outside. "I miss the people we used to be." He laughed softly. "We're just busy." She nodded. Maybe. But something inside her eyes changed that day. Something Ethan didn't notice. Not yet. Chapter 2. The Distance Between Two Hearts. That night, neither Ethan nor Lily slept well. The apartment was silent, not because they had nothing to say, but because they didn't know how to say it anymore. The next morning, Ethan woke up early. Lily was already in the kitchen. She was making pancakes. His favorite breakfast. She smiled when she saw him. "Good morning." "Morning." For a few seconds, everything felt normal. She placed a plate in front of him. "I made your favorite." He looked at his watch. "I'm sorry, I have to leave in 10 minutes. Her smile faded for just a moment. "Oh." He stood up. "I'll eat something at the office." He kissed the top of her head without really looking at her. He demeaned her. "Love you." Then he walked out the door. The pancakes stayed on the table. Untouched. Lily stared at them for a long time. Then, quietly, she threw them away. At work, Ethan's life was moving faster than ever. His company had been invited to compete for the biggest project of the year, a luxury hotel overlooking the harbor. If they won, his career would change forever. His boss called him into the office. "Ethan." "Yes?" "I want you to lead the project." Ethan couldn't believe it. "Really?" "You've earned it." His heart raced. This was everything he had worked for. Late nights, missed weekends, endless meetings. Finally, it was paying off. He grabbed his phone. He wanted to tell Lily, but before he could call, another meeting started, then another, and another. By the time he remembered, it was almost midnight. He looked at his phone. 7 missed calls, all from Lily. He sighed. "I'll call her tomorrow." The next evening, he finally arrived home before sunset. Lily was sitting on the balcony. She wasn't reading. She wasn't drawing. She was simply watching the sky. He smiled. "I'm home?" She looked at him, earlier than usual. "I have good news." "What is it?" "I got promoted." For the first time in weeks. She smiled with genuine happiness. "I'm so proud of you." She hugged him tightly. "I knew you could do it." He laughed. "We should celebrate." "I'd love that." "Tonight?" He checked his phone. His smile disappeared. I'm sorry. My team needs me online in 20 minutes. Her shoulders dropped. Of course. I promise we'll celebrate this weekend. She nodded. Okay. But inside, she didn't believe him anymore. Saturday arrived. Lily woke up excited. She wore the blue dress Ethan loved. She even booked a small table at the restaurant where they had celebrated their engagement years ago. At 4 o'clock, she texted him. I'm getting ready. 5 minutes later, he replied. Running a little late, she smiled. No problem? At 6, another message, still at work. At 7, I'm so sorry. At 8, no more messages. Lily sat alone in the restaurant. Couples laughed around her. Someone was celebrating a birthday. Another couple was taking wedding photos. She looked at the empty chair across from her. The waiter walked over. Will the other guest be joining you? She forced a smile. No? I'll just have tea. The waiter nodded kindly. I'm sorry. She looked out the window before whispering to herself. So am I. When Ethan finally came home, it was after midnight again. The apartment was dark. He found Lily sitting on the couch. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. Sometimes, silence hurts more than shouting. You waited up? Yes. I'm really sorry. I know. I couldn't leave. I know. It was important. I know. He sat beside her. I'm doing all this for us. She looked at him for several seconds. Then she asked the question he would remember for the rest of his life. For us, or for you? He didn't answer immediately, because he wasn't sure. The following weeks became even busier. Sometimes Ethan left before sunrise. Sometimes he came home after midnight. Sometimes he didn't come home at all. He slept at the office. Lily stopped asking when he would be home. She stopped cooking large dinners. She stopped making plans. Instead, she spent more time drawing. One afternoon, she received an email. Her illustrations had been accepted by a publishing company. A children's book, her first real project. She stared at the screen in disbelief. Tears filled her eyes. She immediately reached for her phone. She wanted to tell Ethan first. She called him. No answer. She smiled. He's probably busy. She sent a message instead. I have amazing news. Call me when you can. Hours passed. No reply. That evening, she celebrated alone. She bought herself a small chocolate cake, placed one candle on top, and whispered, I'm proud of you, Lily. Then she blew out the candle herself. 3 days later, Ethan finally noticed the message. He immediately called her. I'm so sorry. Congratulations. She sounded happy. Thank you. When did this happen? A few days ago. I'm really proud of you. I know. Her voice was calm. Too calm. He didn't realize it then, but every missed moment was creating a crack in their relationship. And tiny cracks, if ignored long enough, can break even the strongest heart. One rainy evening, as Ethan opened the apartment door, he noticed something strange. The living room looked different. One bookshelf was empty. Lily's favorite paintings were gone. Her easel had disappeared. He frowned. Lily? No answer. He walked slowly toward the bedroom. The closet door was open. Half of her clothes were gone. On the bed, there was only a single white envelope, and written on the front, For Ethan. Chapter 3. The Letter She Left Behind. Ethan stood frozen. The apartment was completely silent. His heartbeat grew louder with every second. Slowly, he picked up the white envelope. His hands were shaking. On the front, in Lily's beautiful handwriting, were only 2 words. For Ethan. He opened it carefully. Inside, there was just one folded letter. No anger, no accusations, no dramatic goodbye. Only a few pages. He took a deep breath and began to read. Dear Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I've finally found the courage to leave, not because I stopped loving you, but because I don't know how to keep loving someone who isn't really here. You never yelled at me. You never cheated on me. You never tried to hurt me. But somehow, you still broke my heart. Not all at once, little by little, day after day, every tomorrow, every canceled dinner, every missed phone call, every promise that became another excuse. I kept telling myself, he loves me. And I still believe you do. But love isn't something we only feel. Love is something we make time for. I waited for you longer than I should have. I waited through birthdays, anniversaries, weekends, holidays. I waited while telling myself, next month will be different. But next month never came. I miss the man who laughed with me over cheap coffee. I miss the man who held my hand while we walked by the river. I miss the man who looked into my eyes instead of at his phone. Maybe he's still somewhere inside you. I hope he is, because he was the love of my life. Please don't look for me, not yet. I need time to remember who I am without waiting. Thank you for every beautiful memory. I'll always be grateful for those. Take care of yourself. Love, Lily. By the time Ethan reached the last line, his vision was blurry. A tear landed on the paper, then another. He looked around the apartment. For the first time, he noticed what had disappeared: the plants, her paintings, her books, even the small yellow blanket she always used while reading. The apartment no longer felt like home. It felt like a hotel room. Cold, empty, lifeless. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. He walked from room to room, opening drawers, looking through old photo albums. Inside one box, he found movie tickets from their first date, a dried flower Lily had kept from a spring picnic, a tiny paper napkin from the coffee shop where they first met. On it, she had drawn a little cartoon version of him. Underneath it, she had written, "The serious man who forgot how to smile." He laughed through his tears. "I did smile." Then he whispered, "Because of you." The next morning, he didn't go to work. For the first time in years, his phone rang again and again. His boss called. His coworkers texted. Clients were waiting. He ignored everyone. Instead, he walked to the old coffee shop. The bell above the door rang as he entered. Everything looked almost the same. The same wooden tables, the same smell of coffee, the same window where Lily used to stand, only she wasn't there. A familiar voice greeted him. "Ethan?" He turned around. It was Mr. Harris, the owner of the cafe. He looked older now. His hair had turned almost completely white. "You haven't been here in years." Ethan smiled sadly. "I know." Mr. Harris prepared his usual drink without asking. "Large cappuccino." "Extra hot? No sugar?" Ethan looked surprised. "You remembered." The old man smiled. "Some people are hard to forget." He placed the cup on the counter, then looked at Ethan carefully. "Where's Lily?" Ethan lowered his eyes. "She left." Mr. Harris didn't ask why. He simply nodded. "I was afraid that might happen." Ethan looked up. "What do you mean?" The old man sighed. "For years. She came here almost every Friday. Alone." Ethan felt his chest tighten. "She came here?" Mr. Harris nodded. "She always ordered one coffee. But she asked me to prepare two." Ethan frowned. 2? Yes. She always believed you might surprise her. Ethan couldn't speak. The old man continued quietly. She waited by the window. For about an hour. Then she smiled, paid for both coffees, and left. Ethan closed his eyes. How long? Mr. Harris answered softly. Almost 2 years. 2 years. Every Friday. She had waited, while he sat in meetings, answered emails, and promised. Maybe next week. Before leaving, Mr. Harris handed him a small notebook. Lily forgot this a few months ago. I kept thinking she'd come back. Maybe it belongs to you now. Ethan opened it. It wasn't a diary. It was a sketchbook. Every page contained a drawing. Him sleeping on the couch, him reading blueprints, him laughing, him drinking coffee, him walking in the rain. Hundreds of tiny moments. On the final page, there was one unfinished drawing. A bench by the river. Only one person was sitting there. Lily. The place beside her was empty. Under the drawing she had written, I'm still saving your seat. Ethan stared at those words for a long time. For the first time in years, he finally understood. Lily had never wanted expensive gifts, or luxury vacations, or a bigger apartment. She only wanted him. And now, for the first time in his life, he was terrified, because he wasn't sure if he had already lost her forever. Chapter 4. The Search That Changed Everything. For the first time in years, Ethan left his phone in his pocket. He didn't answer emails. He didn't attend meetings. He didn't care about deadlines. There was only one thing on his mind: finding Lily. He drove to every place they used to visit: the park where they had their first picnic, the bookstore where she spent hours reading, the bridge where they watched fireworks every summer, the little bakery she loved because it sold cinnamon rolls every Sunday morning. Everywhere he went, people remembered her. Oh, the girl with the sketchbook, the one who always smiled, the woman who tipped everyone, the artist. Everyone remembered Lily. Everyone, except the man who should have known her best. That evening, he visited her parents. Her mother opened the door. When she saw Ethan, she didn't smile. She simply stepped aside. Come in. The house smelled exactly the same. Fresh bread, lavender, old books. Lily's father was sitting in the living room. He looked up from his newspaper. Hello, Ethan. Hello. An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Finally, Ethan spoke. Do you know where Lily is? Her mother looked at him for several seconds. Then she quietly asked, Why? I want to bring her home. She shook her head. No. I want to tell her I'm sorry. Still, she shook her head. You've said sorry before? This time it's different. How? Ethan had no answer, because he didn't know. Lily's father stood up. He walked toward the bookshelf. From the top shelf, he picked up a small wooden box. This belonged to Lily. He handed it to Ethan. She asked us to give it to you. Only if you ever came looking for her. Ethan's hands trembled. He slowly opened the box. Inside, there were dozens of tiny folded papers. Each one had a date. He unfolded the first. January 12th. Today, Ethan worked until midnight again. I made his favorite soup. Maybe tomorrow. He opened another. February 3rd. We were supposed to watch the sunset. He forgot. Maybe next week. Another, March 18th. I got good news today. He was too busy to answer. I still can't wait to tell him. Another April 9th. We sat in the same room for 2 hours. Neither of us spoke. I've never felt so lonely. There were more, hundreds more. Not angry letters, not complaints, just tiny pieces of a heart breaking. One day at a time, Ethan closed the box. He couldn't breathe. Lily's father finally spoke. You know, when Lily was a little girl, she used to rescue injured birds. If she found one with a broken wing, she stayed beside it until it could fly again. He looked directly into Ethan's eyes. She spent years trying to rescue your heart, but eventually, she realized she couldn't. That sentence followed Ethan everywhere, for days. He stopped sleeping. Food had no taste. Music sounded empty. The apartment echoed with silence. For the first time, success felt meaningless. One Monday morning, his boss called him again. Ethan, we need you. I can't. The hotel project is in 3 days. I know. If you walk away now, everything you've worked for will disappear. Ethan looked around his apartment, the awards on the shelf, the expensive watch, the framed certificates, the modern furniture. None of it mattered anymore? He whispered, I've already lost everything that mattered. Then, he resigned, just like that. Years of work, gone with one sentence. Weeks passed. Autumn slowly turned into winter. One snowy afternoon, Ethan decided to clean the apartment, not because he wanted to, because staying busy hurt less than thinking. While moving an old cabinet, he noticed something underneath, a flat envelope covered in dust. He frowned. I've never seen this. It had slipped behind the furniture years ago. On the front, in Lily's handwriting, it simply read, Open this when you finally have time. His heart stopped. He slowly opened it. Inside, there was a handwritten invitation. Saturday, 10 a.m. Our dream trip begins. No phones, no work, just you and me. At the bottom, she had drawn 2 little suitcases and 2 smiling stick figures holding hands. The date was 3 years ago. 3 years. He had never even seen it. The invitation had fallen behind the cabinet before he came home that evening. She must have waited all day, thinking he had ignored it. Ethan dropped to his knees. His tears fell onto the paper. He wasn't crying because she had left. He was crying because he suddenly realized how many chances life had quietly given him, and how many of them he had never even noticed. That night, for the first time, he whispered into the empty apartment, Lily, if I get one more chance, I won't waste another tomorrow. But somewhere across the city, Lily was beginning a completely different life, and Ethan had no idea. That fate was already preparing one final meeting. Chapter 5, One Lamb. Last winter arrived quietly. Snow covered the streets of Boston. The trees were bare. The air was cold. But inside Ethan, everything felt even colder. Every morning, he woke up hoping there would be a message from Lily. There never was. Every night, he stared at his phone. Nothing. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. For the first time in his adult life, he wasn't chasing success. He wasn't working late. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. Instead, he was trying to become someone worth loving again. He sold his expensive sports car. He didn't need it anymore. He donated half of his designer clothes. He canceled memberships he never used. He moved into a much smaller apartment, not because he had no money, because he no longer wanted a life built around things. He wanted a life built around people, One Saturday morning, he walked back to the old coffee shop. Mr. Harris smiled. "You're becoming a regular again." Ethan laughed. "I guess I am. Large cappuccino? Extra hot. No sugar." Some habits were worth keeping. As they talked, a little girl walked into the cafe. She couldn't have been older than 8. She was holding a notebook. "Excuse me." Mr. Harris smiled. "Hi, Emma." The little girl looked at Ethan. "Can you draw?" He smiled. "Not really." She frowned. "My art teacher says everyone can draw." Ethan laughed. "I think your teacher is smarter than me." The little girl opened her notebook. Inside were colorful animals, tiny houses, funny monsters. For a second, it reminded him of Lily. He smiled without realizing it. Emma noticed. "You know someone who likes drawing?" He nodded. "The best artist I've ever met." "Where is she?" He looked out the window. "I hope she's happy." That afternoon, Mr. Harris quietly walked over. "I've been thinking." "About what?" "Lily." Ethan's heart skipped. "What about her?" I remembered something. When she came here, she always talked about one place. What place? A small art studio. She dreamed of teaching children there someday. "Do you know where it is?" Mr. Harris nodded. "It's about 2 hours from here." Ethan stood immediately. "Thank you." The drive felt endless. Snow covered the roads. The sky was gray. His hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. For the first time in months, he felt hope. The studio stood on a quiet street. It wasn't large, just a small white building with colorful flowers painted around the windows. Children's drawings decorated the front door. He took a deep breath, then walked inside. The room was filled with laughter. Children sat around wooden tables, painting animals, rainbows, castles. A woman stood at the front of the room. She was helping a little boy mix colors. Her back faced Ethan. Even after all those months, he recognized her immediately. Lily. She had cut her hair shorter. She looked healthier, more peaceful. She was smiling, the kind of smile he hadn't seen in years. One of the children noticed him. "Miss Lily, someone's here?" She turned around, their eyes met. Neither of them moved. The room suddenly felt silent, not because the children had stopped talking, but because Ethan couldn't hear anything anymore. It was her. She was real. She wasn't a dream. Lily walked toward him slowly. "Hi, Ethan." Her voice was calm, gentle, not angry, not cold, simply calm. He swallowed hard. "Hi. I wasn't expecting you." "I know." They stood there for several seconds. Neither knew what to say. Finally, Lily smiled politely. "The children are painting right now. Can we talk after class?" Ethan nodded. "Of course." He sat quietly in the corner. For the next hour, he watched her teach. She encouraged every child. She celebrated every tiny success. She laughed often. The children adored her. One little girl hugged Lily after finishing her drawing. "Thank you, Miss Lily." Lily hugged her back. "I'm proud of you." Ethan smiled sadly. That used to be him. He used to be the reason she smiled. When the class ended, the children ran outside with their parents. The studio became quiet. Lily walked over. "So, what brings you here?" Ethan looked at the floor. "I've been looking for you." "I know." "You knew?" "Mr. Harris called me a few weeks ago. He told me you've been visiting." Ethan nodded. "I wanted to say I'm sorry." She smiled gently. "I know you're sorry." "I mean it. I know. I've changed." She looked at him carefully. I can see that. For a moment, hope returned to his heart. Maybe, just maybe, it wasn't too late. Then Lily quietly asked, Ethan, are you here because you're lonely? Or because you finally understand what love really is? He opened his mouth to answer, but no words came out, because he knew this answer would decide everything. Chapter 6. Ambanova came too late. The room was completely silent. Lily looked into Ethan's eyes. Then she asked again, Are you here because you're lonely? Or because you finally understand what love really is? Ethan didn't answer immediately. Months ago, he would have rushed to say something, anything, whatever sounded right. But this time, he wanted to tell the truth, the whole truth. He took a slow breath. I'm here because I spent years believing love would wait for me. I thought saying I love you was enough. I thought working harder meant loving you more. I thought tomorrow was guaranteed. He smiled sadly. I was wrong. Lily listened quietly. He continued, I don't want another chance because I'm lonely. I want another chance because I finally became the man you deserved years ago. Silence. Lily looked out the window. Snow was falling gently. I wished for these words. For a very long time. She looked back at him. But wishes don't stop time. They walked outside together. The streets were quiet. Children were making snowmen. Cars moved slowly through the falling snow. For a while, neither of them spoke. Finally, Lily broke the silence. Do you remember our first apartment? Ethan smiled. The tiny kitchen. And the old sofa. The broken heater. The plants everywhere. They both laughed. For just a second. It felt like old times. Then, Lily whispered, I was happy there. So was I. No? She gently shook her head. You were happy because of your future. I was happy because of our present. Those words stayed with him. They reached a small park. There was an empty bench covered with snow. Lily brushed the snow away and sat down. Ethan sat beside her. She smiled softly. Do you know what hurt the most? He looked at her. It wasn't the missed dinners. It wasn't the canceled vacations. It wasn't being alone. He frowned. Then what was it? She answered quietly, feeling invisible. I could survive being alone, but I couldn't survive feeling unseen. A tear rolled down Ethan's face. I saw you. She gently smiled. No. You looked at me, but you stopped seeing me. Minutes passed. The wind became colder. Lily reached into her coat pocket. She pulled out a small folded piece of paper. I've carried this with me for months. She handed it to Ethan. He unfolded it carefully. It was another drawing. This time, there were two people sitting on a bench, holding hands, looking at the sunset. At the bottom, she had written, Love doesn't disappear in one day. It disappears one ignored moment at a time. Ethan closed his eyes. I don't deserve your forgiveness. Lily answered softly, This isn't about deserving. It's about healing. He looked at her. So, is this goodbye? She smiled through her tears. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I've spent months rebuilding my life. I've learned to smile again. I've learned to dream again. I've learned to be happy without waiting. She paused. I can't erase that. I don't want you to. I don't want the old life back. He looked at her with the tears in his eyes. I don't either. She looked surprised. I don't want the man I used to be. I don't want the marriage we used to have. I don't want a life where work comes first. I lost you once. I'll spend the rest of my life making sure I never lose myself again." Spring arrived a few months later. The snow disappeared. Flowers began to bloom again. Ethan didn't call Lily every day. He didn't pressure her. He didn't ask for another chance. Instead, every Saturday morning, he volunteered at the art studio. He cleaned the classrooms, fixed broken tables, painted walls, read stories to children, not because Lily was there, because he finally understood that love is shown through actions, not promises. Sometimes Lily spoke with him, sometimes she didn't. Sometimes they laughed together. Sometimes they simply worked side by side. Slowly, trust began growing again, not like a fire, like a tiny seed, one that needed patience. Almost 1 year later, Mr. Harris invited them both to the old coffee shop, the place where everything had started. He smiled as they walked in. "I've been saving this table." The same table, near the window, the one where Ethan had proposed years ago. Mr. Harris placed 2 cappuccinos on the table. "Large?" "Extra hot. No sugar." They both laughed. Some memories never fade. As the sun began to set, Ethan looked at Lily. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like." She smiled. "Neither do I. But..." She reached across the table and took his hand. "For the first time, we're both actually here today." Ethan smiled. Not because everything was perfect, not because every wound had healed, but because he finally understood the greatest moments in life are never waiting in the future. They are happening right now. And this time, he wasn't going to miss them. The end moral of the story. Success can build a beautiful house. Money can buy comfort. Time can create opportunities. But none of them can replace the moments you choose to ignore. The people who love you rarely ask for perfection. They ask for your attention, your presence, your time. Because one day, you may finally realize how much someone meant to you. And by then, tomorrow may already belong to someone else.